What is going on? Your boy, Roosevelt Simmons here. I want to welcome you guys to the second series of Vet Talk. Today we will be covering really one topic that I failed to cover last time that is going to be really important and critical to retirees in 2017 that are looking at getting out and getting in with the federal government. So we're going to jump right into it here. This is Vet Talk. Happy Saturday to everybody. Hope you guys are having a lovely weekend on the prelude to Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. If you are off on Monday, let's take a time to celebrate and remember the man who has done so much to help us and kind of forge the way for a lot of minorities, for all minorities, as we take that day to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Today on Vet Talk, we're going to cover a topic that I should have talked about last week. If you tuned in last week, we covered a pretty significant amount of stuff over a 1 hour span. And that 1 hour period really kind of, got me going off on certain things about federal hire, federal employment, the resume process. Today, what I'm going to talk about is something that it has direct impact to the individual retiree that is looking at getting out and joining the federal service. So we're going to cover that. First, let me say that I hope you dirty birds out there are enjoying your game today. Looks like if things continue to go as they are going, the Atlanta Falcons may end up getting that W over Seattle Seahawks. Not a fan of either one. You see what I represent here? I got to put my on my chest. You see what I represent here? Steelers. Steeler Nation. We got the game tomorrow against KC. I'm confident. Think we're going to do it. But, I'm looking forward to a good game. I'm looking forward to the other game I'm looking forward to tomorrow is that Dallas-Green Bay game. I think Dallas is going to do it. I think Dak, Zeke, I think they're going to do it. We'll see. But my boys, I got to give it up for my boys. My boys, we're looking strong. Ben is going to be healthy. I think we're going to play good. We'll see. So Atlanta Falcons fans, hope you guys are enjoying what's going on right now. Seattle Seahawks fans, I feel bad for you. Hopefully you guys are going to pick it up. I'm not watching the game. I don't have the scores in front of me. The last time I left, Atlanta was just putting some more points on the board. And I believe they were 16 points ahead. So if you guys are watching the game, enjoy it. If you guys don't have the opportunity to catch this live broadcast of Vet Talk, do not worry. It is going to be on YouTube, my YouTube channel. I'm going to make sure to record it, post it. If you have follow-on questions to the topics that I'm covering, please go on the channel, post those questions, go on my Facebook page, post those questions. We'll be more than happy to answer. I have my N1 superstar out there, Autumn, if she's watching, which I know she is. Her and my Uso, my boy, I know that they're watching. She can answer a lot of these questions that if you post them up, I'll make sure that when I go in on Tuesday, we'll review these questions and we'll provide you guys answers if you have questions to what I'm about to cover. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it, because this is going to be critical. When I saw this, it was a shock. I don't want to surprise you. And I don't want to interrupt your late football game that's coming on today. So, and again, if my eyeballs are looking down instead of looking up at the camera, it's me again getting used to not talking to a camera and talking to the camera, not talking to the screen. That's what it is. Okay? So let's go ahead and jump right into this. OCHR, the federal government has changed the requirements for retired military members who are post-retirement, who are looking at joining the federal service. So in a nutshell, I'll just put it out there right now. The regulation as of December 23rd is that retirees must wait 180 days post-retirement. From the date of retirement, must wait 180 days before they can be appointed to or accept federal employment. 180 days, 6 months. All right. That law has been in place for a while, but the outgoing president, he signed the National Defense Authorization Act for FY17, reinstituting this 180-day wait. Here's the fact sheet that we have, and we'll talk about this fact sheet and kind of go over it. And we'll talk about some of the waivers that could happen to help appoint 180-day members. But right now, as it stands, if you are retiring as of December 23rd, you must wait 180 days. Okay, so what does that mean for you? Well, let's go over the NDA Act real quick, and I'll pull that up to kind of cover that for you. In a nutshell, what has happened is that they have implemented this DOD instruction, okay? And this DOD instruction, by the way, that I'm going to show you has been around since 2007, I believe. And this instruction is actually the instruction, excuse me, that was never rescinded. What happened was that the president back in 2011, I believe, instituted an amendment to this to allow veterans to get hired immediately after retirement. Okay, this is the DOD instruction. It is instruction number 1402.01, employment of retired military members of the armed force. And you'll notice that again that this is dated from 2007. All right, and this instruction basically defined that policy for 180-day requirement. Again, this was suspended as a course of national emergency, and it has since been rescinded as of December 23rd. Okay. So let's talk about this, and let's talk about what is going to happen, and what does this affect. Okay. So some of the questions that you may ask yourself, and this fact sheet is going to cover it. Is this a new requirement? So you can read there, it's not. Back in 2001, state of emergency was declared. I said 2011, I'm sorry, 2001. This, 9/11, post 9/11, where Department of Navy's to appoint retired military within 180 days of retirement without the need of a waiver, which meant that if you retired on Monday, if your retirement date fell on a Monday, I didn't have to wait 180 days. I could go ahead and bring you into the federal government. That has since been rescinded. Now, if you retire on Monday, I have to wait 180 days from that date of retirement to hire you unless a waiver is submitted. And I will tell you that from my sources that getting a waiver is not going to be very easy. But we're going to talk about what some of the circumstances that could call for waiver. And this is important for you. Does this mean that retired members cannot apply to a vacancy announcement until after 180 days? Again, no. You can still apply for jobs you see out there. You just need to understand that unless you are waived from that requirement, you will be found unqualified for that position by OCHR, not by the hiring official, not by the agency that is looking at trying to hire. OCHR will find you unqualified for that position, and they will not submit your resume or your application for consideration. Okay? Question 3 talks about retired military members are a source of best qualified candidates. Why do I have to go through this extra step? I'm not going to go over question 3 because my opinion. This is my opinion here. When I'm looking at trying to hire and backfill for critical positions, military members that have been performing those functions are the source of best qualified candidates. They are. Hands down. So I understand the requirement. I understand that, we want to be equal across the board, but I don't necessarily agree with waiving the 180-day, or I don't necessarily agree with implementing the 180-day requirement. I don't want to have to wait 180 days. This is going to have a huge impact on us trying to hire retired members of the military. And again, I want to point this out. This pertains only to retirees. This pertains only to retirees. It's not talking about guys who spend 4, 8, 6, whatever, and honorably separate from the military. This doesn't talk about that. This is just talking about retirees. Okay. So one more time before I move forward. If you are retiring from December 23rd on, December 23rd of 2016 on, you must wait 180 days post-retirement before we can bring you into the federal government. Okay? That's not counting terminal leave, by the way. That is not counting terminal leave. That is from the day that you are retired. So if you go on terminal leave for 90 days, then that 90 days doesn't start the counter. The counter starts after your terminal leave, 180 days from the day that you are officially retired from the military. Okay? That's what that applies to. So let's talk about the waiver, and I don't want to focus too much on the waiver, and I'm looking at the fact sheet right now, kind of explain to you why the waivers are required. We're going to talk about that. From reading the information that was presented out, waivers can be appointed to exceptionally qualified candidates that are the only exceptionally qualified candidates for a specific position. So if I have a very unique position that I can hire for, and you are a retiree, and you are the only qualified candidate for that position, then I can submit a waiver to OCHR, get it vetted through OPM, and potentially get you on. In the scope of what I've seen, I have an announcement out right now for a key position, and I have probably about 30 candidates on that certificate. And on that certificate, there are members who are currently on terminal leave or who are pending retirement within 2 months. 2 months. So, in asking myself, can I submit a waiver for those individuals? The answer is going to be no. Why? Because OCHR has found that I have 30-something qualified candidates for that specific certificate for that job. So I can't submit. Is this going to cause a problem? Absolutely. Absolutely, this is going to cause issues for the federal government, and unfortunately, it's going to cause some delays in the hiring for our veterans, retirees that are looking at trying to get federal employment. So there it is in a nutshell. That is the gist of what's happening with this new 180-day appointment. Now, how do they validate or how do they verify that you are within that time frame? So next week I will probably go a lot more in depth with this, try to cover it more, but there's something critical that has to happen on the application, the physical digital application when you are applying to USA Jobs. Excuse me. They've put out now an extra step for you to certify your time frame that you have been retired or separated from the military. So they put out now that it's a little click box, and Autumn was talking about this. She explained this to me this past week, and I'll definitely work on getting her to dial in or getting her to call in and trying to talk about this. As we're going to continue to talk about this, by the way. We're going to continue to voice this so everyone out there is aware of this. So, and I'm going to give you my opinion here in a second on some this is the negative side, but there's some positive, and I'll give you that in a second. But USA Jobs, you have to now click to self-certify that you are within this time frame. Okay, and on the application on the website, it's going to ask you, are you within 120 days of your retirement date? Now, I said before that we just saw it says 180 days, right? I don't want to confuse you, but USA Jobs, for application purposes, they figure that 120 days and 120 days out is the minimum time where once the whole process is completed, if you are selected, you will be at 180 days. Or they can push it out to 180 days. So it's going to ask you if you're within a 120-day period, okay? If you self-certify that you are not within that 120-day period, your application will not even get submitted. So don't forget to click on that and verify and validate that you are within that 120, 180 day period post retirement. Please, vets, please do not factor in your terminal leave or house hunting leave. It has to be from the date you're retiring. Okay, and again, I want to reiterate one more time that this is for retirees. This is not for, just the regular separating EASing young vet out there. Okay, you guys still have the opportunity to, separate or EAS on a Friday and start working on a Monday. It's the retirees that this is focused on. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the enactment here and talk about why waivers are required, okay? And it lists you, United States Code, the USC Code, that talks about limited DoD flexibility, okay? And it says right here, the only instance when a retired military member may be appointed in the Department of Navy to a civil service position within 180 days of retirement is: 1, appointment has to be approved by the Secretary of the Navy or his designee. If the position is in the competitive service, with approval from OPM, or 2, the minimum rate of basic pay for the position has been increased under 5 USC 5305. A lot of jargon and legal talk and everything else. Basically, what that means is this. If, like I told you before, if you qualify for a position but you're not within that 180-day window, then the agency, the hiring agency, must submit a request for a waiver to Secretary of the Navy, OPM, basically. Okay? OPM is going to review and see if there are other qualified candidates that could compete for that position. So it says again, if the position is in the competitive service, which is what we are, with approval from OPM. So that means that if there are other qualified candidates out there, OPM is not going to approve it. But if that position, if you, the individual, are the only qualified, then I can pick you up. If OPM approves a waiver. Okay? So that in a nutshell is the act, or is what they're talking about with the 180-day waiver. I don't like it. Again, I don't agree with it. I think it's a bad idea. It's gonna impact. If now there's a caveat to this. I want to make sure that for anybody that watches this, or for anybody that's watching, if you were on a cert or were offered a position prior to December 23rd, then you're grandfathered in. This does not impact you. Okay? If you were offered a position or you were in consideration for a position prior to December 23rd, this doesn't impact. However, if you apply for a position, submitted your resume, and the cert closed December 27th, but you applied December 21st, this applies. The cert need to have been closed, and you need to have been submitted for consideration prior to December 31st or December 23rd for this to have impact, or for this to be grandfathered in. Okay. So what does this mean? Well, I kind of covered that already, what it means, and we already talked about it. Who's going to benefit from this? Not a lot of veterans, for certain, and definitely not the federal service, and definitely not the hiring agencies. We're not going to benefit from it, because now I have to wait 6 months before I can bring an individual retiree on who may have the exact qualifications that I need, but I can't touch him because he's amongst other determined qualified candidates. Okay, for you, it means that more than likely you're gonna have to wait 6 months to get federal employment. So what does that mean for? Well, let's talk about contract work. What does that mean for that? Well, as it stands right now, I think what it means is you're going to see a lot of contractors, just going to start dipping their, fishing poles into the pond of all these qualified veteran pools, and start fishing for the talent. Start fishing for when you see an increase in government contracts as an increase. If I can't get you from the federal side, but I need some qualified candidates, or I need this position filled, need the vacancy filled, or I need the service rendered, could I contract that job out? Well, you may see that. You may see an increase in contracts directly related to this 180-day wait requirement now. Or you may see increase in contracts as a result of, side effects of the 180-day wait period. You may see that, which means that, that retiree, instead of him coming to the federal government, could potentially get picked up by a contractor, a defense contractor, to fill that billet in that position for a finite period of time, and then that position is either insourced or abolished, depending on what happens in the future. So that's potentially what you might see. Tough pill to swallow. Something that when I was told by my N1, I had to go back and kind of scratch my head and ask, why are we doing it? The reality of the federal government is this. The federal government does lean heavy on, veterans and bringing veterans into federal employee because the experience is there. All right, civilian service because the experience is there. This is not going to help the process as we move forward and we see more and more, senior civilian personnel start to start to retire and looking at moving out of federal service. We got to fill some of these critical key role positions. So does this 180-day requirement does this mean that across the board, every veteran that's retired will not get a job for 180 days after retirement? No, I absolutely don't believe that. I don't know what the percentages or the numbers are going to be, but I think that you'll see in specific instances, in specific fields, whether it be logistics, whether it be operations, whether it be financial management, you're going to see a difference in how we can look at bringing in retirees within that 100 or that are outside the scope of that 180 day window. Okay. So, yeah, that's it. I mean, again, I will provide more information as we move forward, and I'll definitely push this out. And next week when we do the vet talk, we'll cover that. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Okay. And I don't like it. I don't think it's something that's going to benefit. I don't think it's something that's going to benefit veterans at all. I think it's something that's going to end up hurting the federal government in the long run. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I'm able to speak my opinion. I don't think this is going to last very long. I think that we will see this either get rescinded or we'll see this get changed. I don't think it'll last very long. I'm really hoping that it doesn't last very long. Okay? We'll be right back. Last week we talked about what I just had popped up on the screen here, which you just saw me open up, resume writing tips. I got into it pretty detailed. Didn't cover everything that I wanted to cover. I'm gonna cover a little bit more today. Talk to you about some resumes I just saw this past week from veterans. And I want to cover a couple of other things from the hiring manager's perspective for you guys that are looking at applying for federal employment. Last week we talked about before some of my pet peeves on the resume. We talked about of course, punctuation and the grammar, capitalization of your name, translation of your military experience over into civilian terms. So, a hiring official or a resume reviewer who maybe particularly doesn't have military experience can understand what you're saying. You need to find a way to do that within a limitation, ladies and gents. If you submit me a resume that's 28 pages long, 28 pages, I said that, 28. Had a resume last week that was 28 pages long. That's too much. I know that the old mantra has been when you go on USA Jobs or when you submit a federal resume, charts. It used to be charts. Now it's switched over to USA Jobs. Was that the resume length was limitless. You can submit as long as you want. That's not true. In the sense that what I'm looking at, what I want to see. As a hiring manager, again, I'm talking as a hiring manager. I'm not talking about me personally. Now I'm talking about just across the broad spectrum. I'm just talking about as a hiring manager. Remember that thing we talked about last week about time, how much time I have, how much time I have to invest in reviewing the resume, going through the cert, racking and stacking, trying to find out who's the best qualified within the scope of what I've received. It's a lot of work, and time is my most valuable commodity. As a hiring manager, time is my most valuable commodity. You give me a 28-page resume, I'm more than likely not going to review your resume. It's too long. Especially if I pull your resume and the first page has nothing pertaining to the skill sets that I'm looking for the specific job that I'm trying to hire for. You give me 28 pages, and we'll talk about how you get that 28 page. But you send me that 28-page resume, I'm not going to look at it. First of all, I'm probably not even going to print it out from USA Jobs when I go to my selection manager screen. It's too long. It's too long. I have to go through, again, hypothetically, say I got a cert list on my screen. I open my screen up, and I got 20 candidates on there. And I look over at documents, and I see that I have, a resume up here, 1 page, resume up here, 1 page. Maybe a resume with 3 pages, a cover letter, a 2-page resume, 3 page, 2 page, 28 pages. That's too much. That 28-page resume you have is what I call your master. That's your living, breathing, keep at home, copy and paste into a 1 or 2 page, maybe a 3. I could take 3 and look at it. Now, again, there's no rule or regulation set in OPM or set in OCHR or USA Jobs that say you can't. I tell you right now, I have received in the past a resume that had 55 pages in it. 55 pages. That is a lot. There is no way that I'm going to review a book for your resume. You got to capture it within 1, 2, 3 pages. For a lot of you guys that have got 20 plus years in, you can't capture it in 1 page. I understand that. So that means you need to get it in 2 or 3. Great, understand that. That means you need to change your format. Okay, what I see a lot of people doing a lot of times in submitting resumes to USA Jobs is they try to stick to the USA Jobs format, the one that you go in and you put in your first job, your most recent job, and then you start working back. Well, what happens if your most recent job is not relevant to, or doesn't have relevant experience to what I'm looking for? What do? There are other resume formats out there that you can submit your resume in. USA Jobs does not prescribe a specific format for your resume. So this is where you kind of start thinking outside the box on how you can immediately draw attention to your resume for the most relevant experience that you have for the position that you are applying for. So maybe a chronological resume is not the format you want to submit in. Now, you have to understand, regardless of what format you submit your resume in, you still need to show relevant experience. You still need to be able to point out, in the resume that you have performed that work, over the resume reader needs to be able to read and see that you have been performing functions within that job. Okay. So whether you submit a chronological resume, or one of my favorite is called a functional resume. A functional resume has a combination of those chronological aspects, but it allows me to draw, or it allows you to draw attention to your specific skill sets. Within that functional resume format, you need to make sure that you can draw the diagram of, here's my skill, here's where I got it from. Here's my skill, here's where I worked in that skill. Here's the time frame that I worked in that skill. Because I still want to be able to see that you have 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years of experience in whatever field that you were applying for. That functional resume format can maybe help you capture that within 2-3 pages. Unlike that chronological. I do not like chronological resumes. I will say that right now. I do not like chronological resumes. Personally, I don't like them because, if I'm applying for a job working as a basket weaver, but the only experience I have working as a basket weaver was 15 years ago, then what am I going to do? Am I going to draw a picture for you for 15 years of experience? Or am I going to take my resume, my chronological resume, and put that experience from 15 years ago up front? Well, that kind of goes, counterproductive to what a chronological resume is. Because I do want to see what you're currently doing right now. I do want to see that in the resume to see if maybe there are some parallels that I can draw from your current experience to what you're doing right now. But I don't want to capture that in 20 pages or 28 pages. It is a tough thing to do, okay? But a chronological resume is something that I particularly like. I have recommended to numerous people in submitting resumes that they submit chronological resumes. And I'm looking to see if I have a chronological resume example. I probably don't have one on my computer here. If not, we will definitely cover it. Let's see. I'll definitely bring one up and show it to you. But in a nutshell, the chronological resume is going to allow you to bring forth your direct experience first, your skills, what you've done, what you have, and it's going to draw attention to your related skills for the position that you're applying for. So you can take that 28, 50 page master resume, whatever you have, and just extrapolate pertinent information from that and put that into the functional resume. I love a functional resume. And I don't think I have one here on the computer. And I don't. Hey, no one said we're perfect. This broadcast is still raw. We will get you one and we will cover that. Okay? We'll talk about that. But that is the key thing. Another thing I want to talk about again, because I just saw it. I looked at a resume on Friday, as a matter of fact, or Thursday. Friday. I looked at a resume on Friday. Just saw it. Another thing I want to talk about is, again, grammar in the resume. Please. If you are not, the most eloquent person in writing skills, or if you have an issue understanding where to place a period or where to place a comma, or what's a fragmented sentence and what's not a fragmented sentence, ask for help. Ask for help. Don't submit a resume without having 1, 2, 3, 5. Have as many people as you can, review your resume within the scope of time that you have before you submit that job or submit application for that job. I saw a resume this past week, that there were some good skills there, and the skills that the individual had, by the way, were skills that I understood because he was a similar background to what I have in ordnance logistics and inventory management, things of that nature. So I was able to draw parallels to some things. But in this resume, by the way, this was one of those 28-page resumes, the same resume I'm talking about. In that resume, there were military acronyms and jargon that I don't even know, because the individual wasn't from my branch of the service. Again, I'm a retired Marine. This resume in particular, I think, was Air Force or Army. I can't remember specifically, but the jargon, some of the acronyms that he listed in the skill sets or the training, I had no clue, absolutely no clue. So it became irrelevant to me because I don't know what that jargon, I don't know what the acronym meant. And again, because the resume is so long. Now, I will say this about the resume. What jumped out at me was that he had an opening paragraph or opening statement at the top of the resume telling me that he was an expert in inventory management, an expert in logistics, an expert in ordnance handling, an expert in this, an expert in that. So that obviously said, okay, well, he's hitting on some of those key things that I'm looking for. Let's take a look at it. Even though it's 28 pages, let's go through and take a look at it, because he's an expert and because I need that skill set. But then I go down and I'm starting, well, okay, the Navy, for example, uses a specific system for inventory management that maybe the Army doesn't or the Air Force doesn't. So I understand that if you don't use the actual Navy term, OIS or whatever it is that you use, I understand that. But if you should be able to capture the function or some of the functional aspects that I'm looking for. Nothing. I saw a bunch of acronyms in there, not related. And then I see a bunch of combat related experience. Listen, no person more than me appreciates combat related experience and what my brothers and sisters out there doing. Okay? But I'm one person in a sea of hiring managers. And I will tell you this right now. There are some hiring managers out there that look at what you put in a resume for combat experience and take offense to it. That's real talk, people. That's real talk. There are some people out there who don't like the fact that you are serving in the federal service or serving in the military and you've went in combat. They don't want to see it. Okay, so, and again, if the combat service you have, if that's related to the job that you're applying for, absolutely put it in. Absolutely. Okay. But if it's not related, then exclude it. Your resume is not, for you to brag about what you've done in your military career. Again, no one can take that from you. Your resume is not to brag what you've done in your military career. Your resume is to paint a picture of what you offer an organization. You need to think in terms of that. Your resume should paint a picture of how you can be valuable to the entity or organization that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a job working in an insurance company, I don't think they want to know that you know how to go kick in doors and know how to go secure a room, or you know how to fire an M60, or you know how to throw a hand grenade downrange. They don't want to know that. They may even take offense to it, or they may even, back off because they get afraid. Okay, so that's important to know. The other part of this, going back to this resume that I was looking at, is, aside from all the military jargon and acronyms that were unrecognizable, some of the key specific skill sets that I'm looking for, the individual knew the acronyms for those skill sets. So, for example, I'll call one out. Individual knew what the acronym. He knew what NCEA. He knew how to write that, NCEA. Okay, and if you worked in inventory management in the Navy or the Marine Corps, you know what NCEA is in relations to an ammunition account or allocation, right? But when he wrote the acronym out, again, this is supposed to be an expert. This is supposed to be an expert. When he wrote what the word meant, he wrote it wrong. Not even close. Instead of non-combat expenditure allocation, NCEA, he wrote Navy combat expenditure something. Not even Navy combat expenditure allowance or something like that. Close, but you're supposed to be an expert. You're supposed to be an expert. So that means that, for a person that, knows the job up and down, again, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm hiring for an inventory manager, believe you me, I know inventory management. So when I look at your resume, you know what they say, right? You can't BS. You know how it goes. When I know what I'm looking for, and I know those skill sets. Now, if I'm a selection manager and I don't know what those skill sets I'm looking for, but I'm hiring for that position, then you got to think that I have somebody in my organization that's either subordinate to me or lateral to me that does know, and I'm going to pull them in to help me review the resumes for the position. Bottom line, don't falsify your resume. And especially don't falsify your resume if you give me a 28-page resume. Come on, man. Don't do it. Okay? So I want to talk about this right here also, because I didn't cover this last week about the resume. And I ain't talking about chat speed. I'm talking about this right here. This right here. The resume is a living, breathing document. You must feed it. What the hell does that mean, right? Well, it means this. That 28-page document that you have, you need to consider that your master. That's like your master. So I used to tell my Marines that they need to, and I told them that because I was told this. You need to create what's called an I Love Me book. Okay? You need to create an I Love Me book. And in that I Love Me book is everything about your professional career. Everything. And as you fill that I Love Me book up, you're going to take this master resume, you're going to go in and kind of, you're going to itemize all your skills from every job that you ever have. This is critically important for veterans. It's critically important for everybody, non-vets, vets alike. But because a vet in his military career has a greater opportunity to do such a broad spectrum of jobs that have related skill sets, it's really important that you itemize what you know. I'm going to turn my light on here because it's getting kind of Oh, there we go. Look at that. We got light. I didn't turn my, by the way, I'm kind of getting off track. I didn't turn my studio lights on either side of me here because it was daylight, but it's getting dark. And we're about to end the broadcast here anyway because I promised myself I was going to go 30 minutes, and I've already been, almost an hour. So I told you before I can talk. But getting back into it. A veteran does so much in a span of their career. If it's a short career, 4 years, maybe not as much. But if you got 20 plus years in, you have done a lot. And I challenge you to go back and remember, without writing it down, what you did 25 years ago. Or if you have a skill set, and remember how you gained that skill 25 years ago. So your living, breathing resume, which is part of your I Love Me book, you've itemized your skills. You take, every week. It's like a journal. It's a journal of your professional career. And all you're doing is you're writing down, you get a new skill set, you do a new function, you get a new assignment, you get a new responsibility, write it down, itemize it. So when you look at that and you ask yourself the professional question, who am I? Professionally, who am I? What do I do? What have I done? How can I translate that into a different career path if you so choose to take a different career path? Every military veteran out there, whether you want to or not, at some point, you are going to take a different career path. You could do the same job in the civilian world that you do in the military, but it's under different circumstances. It's a different career path. So, extremely important that you know how to itemize and know how to quickly go back and draw from your experiences. That living, breathing document, that living, breathing resume, that's your ticket. You should always update your resume. You should be dropping little notes and little tidbits in your resumes at least once a month, if you develop a new skill set. Okay. Keep your resume updated. Keep that master updated. So when you go out, this is going to help you build that targeted 2-page, 3-page resume for a specific job. Again, you develop the format and stuff, and I'll show you that next week. Every day in your professional career, you are gaining experience and knowledge. I used to have this saying, turtle back thick skin in the Marine Corps. I still say it today. All right. Turtle back thick skin. You are always going to learn. You're always gaining nutrients and knowledge. You're always absorbing stuff. You need to make sure you document that. All right. Put that in your resume. Put that in your I Love Me book or folder, whatever you call it. For you veterans out there, for you military members, all your awards, all your fit reps, all your write-ups, everything, put them somewhere where you can consolidate them easily and draw for them easily to help you build that resume. Okay? That's really critical. All right. The last part about the resume I want to talk about is the final food of thought here you saw. And this is a true statement. Your resume is a direct reflection of your professional self. Your resume is a direct reflection of who you are. When you go and you are applying for the job, whether it be federal service or whether it be private sector, when you go apply for a job, more than likely the person that you are applying to or you submit your application to does not have a clue who you are. And they have a lot of unknown people applying for the same position. So how is your resume going to rack and stack as compared to the individual next to you? It is a competition. It's a competition to get hired, to get recognized. You have to take time. You have to take pride in your resume. Look at it as a uniform inspection. when you're getting ready to go stand up in front of the battalion commander for the battalion inspection, you want everything immaculate. You want all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted. You want everything to be perfectly aligned. That's your resume. You got to make sure it's right. Again, it is going to get more difficult to hire a veteran, a retiree coming out with his new 180-day requirement. You have to be able to point out what your skill sets are in order to identify so we can come in and get you. I want to thank you guys for paying attention again. If you are watching, if you haven't watched, again, this broadcast is being recorded live. I will make sure it's on the Facebook page. I will put the link, I will make sure it's on the YouTube page. I will put the link up on my Facebook page. We'll try to cover, a broader spectrum of topics. Good luck to all those football fans out there who have teams that are currently playing. Okay? Hey, I want to leave you with one last thought before you go, and we'll carry this over. And I heard this today while, browsing through the internet. We tend, as an individual, as a group, we tend to like to surround ourselves with things or in places that make us comfortable. We tend to like to enclose ourselves in a bubble and only allow things to feed through or funnel through that bubble that agree with our opinions and our thoughts and our processes and agree with who we are as an individual. You have to challenge yourself to open that bubble up and allow other opinions and other ideas to funnel through. Because you may find, if you do that, some of those other opinions and ideas are actually valid and can actually help you and benefit you as you start to transition from one place to another, from one career to another, from one job to another. The military transition, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge, huge transition. It is like jumping into a pool of frozen water the first time. You want to be prepared as much as you can. Open up your bubble. Let information flow in. Keep an open mind. Stay safe out there, my veterans, my brothers and sisters that are out there protecting this country, that are serving us. Thank you for what you do. Enjoy your holiday weekend. I definitely hope you guys do. Enjoy your time. Enjoy the barbecue. Enjoy the Pittsburgh Steelers victory tomorrow. All you KC fans out there, I'm sorry to see what's going to happen to you. I hope I don't eat those words. Thanks a lot for watching Vet Talk. This is Roosevelt Simmons. Peace. I'm out.